the idea came from like I think our society kind of, and I received the script like years ago, and the whole idea of that concept was already set, and after we developed for years, like and it's just in our society today. I feel like all the governments and society try to control what we should or shouldn't do, what women should or shouldn't do with their bodies, and like and it comes from that. And also personally, when I received the script, I had like been going through a whole process of trying to have kids for years, doing like IVF, like and so when I received the script, like that concept of having a couple, like going through so many absurd tests, which is the case when you try to have a kid and it's not working. Like, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I can relate to that.
For the actors, do you make those connections between what in some ways is this, fantastic science fiction story and what are a lot of sort of real world parallels to it? Like Elizabeth, are you thinking about the ways in which the story connects to the real world?
I am when I'm reading it for the first time and trying to understand the why and of participating, but not when I'm approaching a character. I don't think in like those kinds of larger ways. It's really was trying to figure out this woman's, Mia, the character I play, her issue within the given circumstances of this controlled state, and her trying to find her place in it, and this struggle between that, individual freedoms, and her being more wild or more connected to nature in this space than the world was allowing. And I think that was, and then also this deep need and love and want for them, for Aryan, Himesh's character, and we're married and we want to have a child. And I think there's a lot of, I think the same reasons why Fleur, these obstacles become so absurd. And I found the messaging to be elegant and not like message forward. It was just woven into the themes in the story.
And I like that idea of thinking of it as like, there's like an elegant simplicity to it. Alicia, did you find that as well when you were reading the script?
I think a lot of it because it's a chamber piece as well. So it's like you set certain like rules. We understand it's in the future, but when that's done, it's just the drama between these three characters primarily that you follow. So in that sense, I've felt the same thing, that I was aware of the themes in it, but that was not the main focus on it.
In some ways, this is, among other things, just a portrait of a marriage, of this couple just like trying to get through this kind of extraordinary circumstance. And for you and Elizabeth, like how did the two of you sort of come to connect or sort of create that sense of like a couple getting through it?
Well, we spent a bit of time in the week leading up to production, just sort of hanging out, getting to know each other. But, we also then had time, the four of us, just discussing the whole script. And so then you can get into specifics of ideas and maybe backstory and just a sense of who they are and what brought them together. A lot of which is in the script already. You get an idea of, how they met and what led them to being in this situation. But it was a lot of thinking about really what would make someone want to go through this process. They know what they're getting into, they think, but whether it's this or whatever everyone thinks it is, it's going to be quite a rigorous process.
Yeah, I think like it took years to develop the script because the concept was very strong, but for me, like it's almost like in French you say the huis clos. It's like one set, So for me, it's all about the characters and the performance, and that has to be the most important. So we developed for years on the characters and their backstory and have them layered, and I didn't want to bring the script to any cast before it was, complete and deep enough for them to be able to perform the way they did.
And as Alicia said, in some ways this is a chamber piece, like it is for as expansive as the story feels, it still is really contained and small. And all three of you have been on much bigger productions with bigger casts and bigger sets. Is there something still exciting for you about doing something this kind of small and contained, Elizabeth?
Genuinely, I really do love vacillating between multiple scopes of projects. I think this felt like a troupe of actors and their director, and with our beautiful crew, we had so many special artists on this. And I think we all cared in a way that felt like ours. And I think there's fewer people who are making it not feel like yours or something, that are making other decisions. We really together, I think when you get that space, I think on a smaller project, and that's what I adored about this. We all really, every step of the way, tried to make every shot as effective as possible and not arbitrary.
I mean, I kind of just love how every single project that you might end up doing turns out to be such a different experience.
Completely,
and it's
yeah.
like when people sometimes ask you, what's your favorite film? And it's like, it's hard to kind of define because it's not a film. It's like, no, but it was like 3-4 months of my life, you know? We have stories. We've spent time in Cologne. That's where we shot the studio. We were in Tenerife. And, you know, and it's also down to each director that you work with. Fleur will have her distinct way of how she, you know, wants to, you know, always extremely collaborative. But it's like, I also love just kind of going with it as well. It's like, what is this experience going to be like? And because of the, you know, very intimate drama that we had at the core of this film, it, you know, it becomes a very kind of tight group. And, you know, you create a good bond. And then I think we had, you know, even though we tackled certain themes and, you know, I think we also love doing the scenes which has, you know, humor, kind of absurd, you know, elements to it, and we did have a lot of fun.
And Himesh, was the intimacy of this, the fact that it really is just the three of you, was that appealing to you as well?
Yeah, for sure. And to speak to that experience of how we all work together as well, I think they're just a trust developed, I think, which I've been very lucky. I've had that quite a few times, but like this felt like it was so essential because it is so like intimate, and I really felt that sort of just happened very naturally, very quickly. We all knew what we were trying to do. Fleur was obviously great at leading us through that, and I just felt very comfortable, and you know, and we were all being very vulnerable on this, you know, various stages. We all had to be very vulnerable for various reasons, and I think the rapport that developed between us really helped.
Alicia, your character in particular is very dynamic. There's some real turns that the character takes. Was it a challenge for you to navigate your way through all that?
For sure. I was quite nervous taking on this role. I knew that it was certain elements of this character on the page that I knew had to be realized. And part of me didn't know how I was going to do that. So that was definitely also an element why I wanted to take on the role, that I found that, you know, she's you know, pushed out in quite far directions, but then there's also extreme depth to her. There's a real kind of backstory to this woman that it's a bit of a mystery trying to figure out her actions throughout this film.
Given the way the story does connect to things that are happening, particularly in America right now, involving reproductive rights and women's control over their bodies, what would you hope that audiences would take away from the movie?
I think it actually connects to like many different countries. US for sure, what's happening right now, but what's happening also in all like many other countries. And I think that it's good if like maybe authorities, but at least like audience question themselves about the choice we are making today, because there is like also selfishness, you know, in our world. Like we want to, like we are being said we should have kids, we shouldn't have kids, and it's actually quite hard, you know, both ways to make that decision. But at the same time, we have governments that kind of make decisions that kind of destroy the planet, you know. So, but it's also, I mean, governments and societies is also us. So I would love people to question themselves about why they really want to have kids and what they are willing to sacrifice for, in a certain way, because you cannot have both.